Alright, this is the start of my 24-hour game jam. It's the day after Christmas, and I've been wanting to make a game for a couple days. And I started a little bit already, just playing around. What we have here is a dragon model made by my friend Miguel. And then I rigged it up with Rapid Rig, and I just gave it some basic physics on the wing and tail. And what I was planning on doing was I started writing the code for making it move around, but then I forgot to turn off the friction of it, so as it moves, now it spins instead of like walking around, and I think it's pretty funny, so I'm going to try to make some kind of game out of this. We're also going to do some Twitch integration stuff so people can add enemies and things like that. I don't totally know what the game's going to be right now, and there's a lot of work to do, but got the start of it moving around, and every update I'm going to do every hour I'm going to do an update, and we will see 24 hours from now how things are looking. It is 12 p.m. noon. I just had my breakfast. I'm not going to do anything else except eating and playing some the Switch Ring-Con game that we just got for Christmas. So other than eating and exercising, it's going to be game jam all the way. And let's start now. I've decided I'm going to show funny bugs as I come across them in between my hourly updates. So I've been trying to get a reticle to show up wherever I put the mouse, right? I'm raycasting trying to get the ground, but I've made a mistake where I'm not just raycasting to the ground only, it's also picking up the cube. So this cube is the reticle for right now. So it's raycasting, hitting the cube, and then putting the cube to that position. Well, the next frame, the cube is now closer, so it moves it to that new position where it hit kind of the corner of the cube. And then closer and closer until it loops over and over again, past the camera. Then we raycast the ground and it moves the cube back there, so you see this cube just constantly flying toward the camera. So it's a funny little bug, and I think I'm going to show silly things like that as they happen. Alright, 1 hour down. I made some kind of slow progress. I now have a reticle that does some raycasting to the ground. And as I put it on like hills and stuff, it kind of rotates to match the angle that it should. So this cube will turn into kind of a circle aiming icon next. One of the big things I did was make it so that the dragon rights itself. For any Unity developers who are watching, what I'm doing to make that happen is there is add force on the left and right as I use the WASD, and then if I'm on the ground and I'm not doing any controls, then it does an add force at position at the bottom of it, so it becomes kind of like one of those clown toys that always come back up, because I'm adding force not from the center of it, which is what a normal rigid body add force would do. It's a add rigid body at position at the bottom, which really, if you think about it, if this was the character and this was the center of its mass, adding force down is always just going to make it go down and maybe try to roll or something. If I add force specifically at this position, it's always going to be pushing down as a sphere, and then the sphere is going to rotate so that it's basically making that sphere heavy at one point. And that only gets applied when we are meant to not move anymore. One of the next things that I'll do is kind of pull his feet in and pull his head in and let it come back out during that part, so maybe it hopefully will look kind of like an animation of him kind of righting himself as he does it instead of these static feet. And then you got some jumping in. And the physics I've been tweaking a lot this hour just to really get things to feel good. I want him to be able to roll down the hill but not right himself until he stops moving. And I'm getting that a little bit free, because technically right now it is trying to right him, but it can't right him because I balanced the force such that if he's rolling a bunch, it's not going to be able to self-right. So that way, if you're in the air and doing a bunch of tumbles, it's not going to happen until you kind kind of end up in the right spot. And unfortunately, I'll probably not have like little grooves like this in the game. This is kind of messing things up. But that'll be all about designing the levels so that it behaves well with them. Alright, see you next hour. No progress this hour. I went and played some the Switch Joy-Con game with the Ring Fit adventure. And so I want to get the exercise out of the way that I was planning on doing early, and now I can just sit for 24 hours and work. 22 more hours to go. Alright, this next update, all I did this session was work on shaders. And there are kind of two different ways you can work on shaders. There's the old way, which is the way I know, with Shader Lab. It's not a markup language, but it is a programming extension of kind of GLSL code, HLSL, kind of a Unity extension for that to be able to custom write shaders. In 2019 and above, you have the shader graph, which lets you do a lot of things with the node-based system, and it's really handy. I don't know that, and I didn't feel like learning it for this little game jam. And I did a ton of this on Jedi Challenges right before shader graph came out. So I had to wade through all the documentation of learning how to program shaders and modify them. Really, a lot of times I'll just start with a simple example documentation and then build from there, so I don't know it off the top of my head. But this is how we used to make custom shaders. Now you have Shader Graph, which does a lot of cool things. You can have like these cool portals all built on nodes, kind of like Unreal's node-based shader. So I haven't tried any of that, but it all looks great. But for this one, I had to go back in and modify the shader. So why did I do these shaders? I'm having some mouse problems, jeez. Oh my goodness. Sorry about this. So you'll see when this was at an angle like this on the terrain, the 3D plane was colliding with the terrain and disappearing beneath it because it was a 3D object like you'd expect. In fact, if I roll the character around, see how the wings are clipping right now? I was having that same effect with the reticle. So by changing this shader, I'm able to set its rendering order so that it renders on top of certain things regardless of where it is in 3D space. So I have it on the terrain moving nicely and never getting occluded, but being occluded by the dragon, which is what I want. I want to tell a little story about this. I did a ton of work like this on Jedi Challenges, and I put a lot of it in my demo reel in 2018. Months before Shader Graph came out. So I have all the shader knowledge that was really hard to find and learn. There's no document. There is some documentation, but it's hard to find the right stuff. And I worked really hard to do all this shader work, and then Unity came out with Shader Graph, which you could probably do all these things in minutes without any code in Shader Graph. So that's the kind of stuff I'm working with here, is the old 2018 and before Shader Lab Unity shader stuff. Next thing I'm going to do is kind of do some zooming out for the camera and whatever else I feel like next hour. I'll see you then. Alright, starting hour 5, I now have some work in progress aiming. So right now, once it's ready to stabilize itself, it's just snapping to look at the reticle. It's actually pretty fun to move the mouse around and make him move. And he goes back into rotating mode after. He goes into the rolling smoothly, but then he exits poorly. So I still got to work on that. All of this aim is actually with transform.lookAt. So one, we don't want it to look at on this axis, so that's why he's moving around, is because we are continuously putting a force down from the center, but now he's no longer straight up and down when that happens because we're constantly overriding the physics with the aim, and it's aiming down, or in this case up sometimes, which is causing him to slide around. So I got to get rid of that and I need to make it so that this aim is not a look at anyway. It needs to be physics based, which is going to be a little bit harder. So those are the next steps. Oh yeah, and I got camera zooming. Just zoom in and out like that. Alright, not too much progress this hour. I got a call. I was helping somebody troubleshoot something. But I did get starting to get the smooth looking working. The problem right now still is I got some of the math wrong. So it's obviously not pointing at the right place. And when I go around certain ways, it's kind of flipping it all crazy. So I must have one of the axes when calculating my math kind of backwards. But I'm getting very close to that. You can see that it's, even though it's moving incorrectly, the rotation is smooth. I still have to figure out how to make that rotation only on the y-axis. I always have troubles with that kind of rotation math. But you can see that it's starting to get there. Alright, progress of the last hour is just a lot of futzing with numbers. We have him smoothly rotating, but only on the X and Z axes, so he's not pointing down and doing weird things like that. Then we have him rolling. Runs time himself right, so he still slides around a bit. I might need to increase some friction and stuff, but got some nice, ready to shoot. Turn around with some speed, depending on how fast that is. It'll make it maybe harder to play. And he's turning to shoot his enemies, and then running and jumping where he needs to go. Next hour is a dinner break. Dinner break! Alright, this hour I've managed to do a lot of work on getting his head to look the right way, as well as trying to even out some of the kind of the turning around when he stops rolling. Hopefully with a little bit of animation work that transition can look a bit better, but I think code-wise that's where I'm going to leave it. Just looking around, I don't know. Oh yeah, you can zoom in and see. Looking better. So I still haven't added friction, so when he's rotating around like this, he's kind of pointing down, which causes his the weeble wobble effect to pull him backwards, because now the bottom is pulling away. But I actually kind of like what I'm seeing here. It's almost like he's like a puppy trying to get at the reticle. So if you move it right into him, I like the idea that he kind of moves on his own without any input from the player. I mean, the input is the mouse. So I think I'm going to leave it as that is for now, and I'm hoping that once I get the feet kind of moving and connecting with the ground, it'll be like a puppy kind of trying to paw around at it. I'm spending way more time on this movement than I intended to. I should be working on other parts of the game, but since this is the primary input for the player, I want to make this really fun and interesting and not frustrating, most importantly. So working on this is taking some time, but I think it's time well spent. I will see you next hour. It is the 11th hour, and what I'm trying to do right now is make the feet stepping work. There's kind of a built-in quadruped with Final IK that's supposed to do this, but I'm not having good results from that. So right now I'm building my own, but it's not there yet. You can see the yellow spheres are the targets. Green are where they're going to try to step to. And the idea is that these green spheres, the further away they are from the yellow, the foot's going to decide to take a step. I've done this before with the biped to some good effect that will be really good for this project, but I don't have any of that code, unfortunately. But the idea is to make a step that happens over time. And we also have to predict where it's going, so that means we're going to have to do some math to figure out, maybe my velocity is this way, so I think a good step position will be this way. So we have to kind of do some interesting stuff to try to predict where the next foot will go. Otherwise, it's just kind of dragging the feet along, and that's not going to work well. But I am not there yet. This is one of those segments that's going to take much time. It's just a quick example to show a little bit more about what I'm planning to do this hour. I've got it so that the feet are stepping one at a time, kind of alternating through each other. So you can see the green spheres are just kind of moving along with the body, but the yellow, they keep taking this position every once in a while. So as I now moving forward, you start to see that shuffling movement. But now you can kind of see why we need the green balls to move even further forward while he's walking forward. See how it looks like the feet are dragging behind? Especially when we go fast, that's not going to work out super well. So we need to put some predictive math in to make those green pieces move forward to compensate. We've just hit hour number 12. A little bit sleepy. But here's where we are. I decided not to make the feet go up and down too much because it's such little movements with what we will actually be using the feet for. I'll make this a little bit bigger. So unfortunately the wings are kind of in the way, but you can see that he's kind of pushing back as he moves. And as he's rotating, he's kind of shuffling his feet around. It's kind of just a subtle thing, but it's nice to have it connect and be grounded. Oh, and then you'll see that the feet are, when he jumps, are pushing up into the body. And also when he rolls, he's kind of going like this. And then they kind of interpolate out. So just things looking a lot more smoother with that. I've started working on code for shooting. So you'll see that I'm holding down the fire button and it's doing some debugs right now. Basically just getting it set up to have different weapon type classes with individual, sorry that was distracting, the individual fire rates and things like that. So just building out the framework for that code. And next hour we should have some semblance of shooting. Projectiles in. Little orange bullets coming out of his mouth, and they are properly pooled. So instead of destroying and instantiating these objects, we're building them the right way, such that they just get recycled. Just been improving on the shooting, and I've been downloading some assets. What you're about to see, I did not create the particle effects for the explosion. I made some little fireball effects. The explosions are from Cartoon FX Remaster Pack from the Asset Store. I also started just adding some texture so I could see particles better. So right now, you see the fireballs are coming up toward the camera sometimes, depending on the rotation of his head. And I thought it might be cool and chaotic, but the more I played, it's kind of frustrating. Because right now it's just shooting from whichever way his head is turned. And that's when he's spinning around, it can be anywhere. So I'm going to change the fireballs to, I think, to fire just the direction that you're aiming. Because otherwise I think it would get frustrating while you're jumping around. Looks cool though. Hello, it's another hour. I have started making more of a map for the terrain. It's a bit early to start actually designing out maps, but I do need something that I can test out getting the AI to run on it, so doing all the nav mesh stuff. So I'm just starting to build out a little space. We got an Egypt area. This will be a graveyard. This will be kind of a rocky area, maybe very maze-like. This is just kind of another grassy area, maybe like a briar patch or something. So very crude at the moment, but starting to block things out for an actual arena. These hours are going by fast. I've just been continuing to work on the area. You guys saw in the last update, Egypt area. You kind of have fun going on top of the pyramid. Kind of silly. Over here, we have our what's going to be our graveyard. Kind of little pathway going up. Put something on these pedestals here, I don't know what. Maybe I'll get rid of some of these and make it kind of like a spooky village with a graveyard attached. And huts on top of the hexagons here. Still working on this area. It's kind of like a canyon. Canyon facts. You can try to trap enemies coming through paths here. Thinking about having like some physics boulders you can roll around. And then this area I've done nothing with yet. I don't know what I want to do with it. Just some hills. I don't know. Figure out something to do with it. Ooh. We're officially 2/3 through the game jam. 8 hours to go. And this is where we are. I have turned the arena into a nav mesh. And I put these little mole guys that I downloaded in here. They're really cute. They're all coming after me. And the player can go, I haven't done any collision with the objects yet, but the player can roll over a lot of stuff, but these characters, they have to follow rules about the slopes, the max slopes that they can take. And so I think that's going to be kind of a challenge to be able to find places where they can't get to you in order to try to take them out as they're swarming. Definitely want to have them try to throw things as well so that they have some ranged attacks. It's kind of interesting going up here. They try to swarm through. A really good example is coming up is they can't go down this slope, so they're going to find kind of their own way around. Maybe I'm back up here, or I go down here. I think it'll just be really fun to swarm player with these freaky guys. Yeah, can't get me. Alright, that's it for now. now 5 o'clock. I have the health bars running. Got them all pointing at the camera. I've got some framework for hats and weapons. Also setting the name and everything. And they explode. Boom, boom. The hours are going very slowly now. I feel sick. I feel drunk. And I'm slow. I'm not enjoying what I'm doing right now, but I will. Everybody's wearing hats now. Reason for that, oh my god, I'm stuck in this group, is I'm starting to integrate work on custom generating characters, which will come into play later. All these hats are being generated based on parsing a string and trying to parse that string intelligently such that a person could write a whole sentence and it would create this character based on that. I downloaded a pack of 90 hats. I don't know if I'm going to do them all. Probably do the cooler ones. Some of them are kind of dumb. Yeah, you can't get me down here, jerks. Find your way around. Oh, you went your own way, crown guy. Is it not your party to have? I forgot that I was recording. Alright, I missed this one by almost half an hour. But I got it in a cool place. What I have now, remember the hats that I was saying could have different descriptions of the monsters? Well, I now have it set up so that if I go to Twitch, just put the chat over to the side, type in a mole wearing a pirate hat named Lenny. And here we have Lenny. Come and get us. And it's kind of, the goal is to be kind of robust in that I can type sentences in various ways. So creature named Ori, who is a mole and loves elephant hats. Oh, do I have a plural or not? Let's see. I do not have a plural. There we go. He loves elephant hat. So I do need to take care of the plural option. And the idea is we're going to have more types of weapons and that you can put in their hands. And also, this is just the chat. When somebody follows, they become a boss in the game. That's going to be really cool. And when somebody raids the channel, it's going to bring in minions of however many people they brought to raid in the chat. So that's going to be pretty sweet. I'm just going to do a couple more to show you some fun hats. Nah, you saw fun hats in the other video. I'm gonna go ahead and just keep going. See you in 30 minutes now because I did this one late. I'm just recording this because it looks disturbing. Alright. This hour I just added a new character. Cactus Man. What's even better is we have a cactus hat. So I'm going to type in a cactus wearing a cactus hat. Give me Cactus Man. Oh. Yeah, I'm up here. I think I'm going to be pretty much calling it at this point. I've hit all the major features that I want. Of course, there's a lot of polish and actual game developing that will go into this now, but I built the basic systems for everything I want, and it's clean code too. It's not hacky game jam code, you know? I got my player movement in. It's fun. I'm jumping around. I have the procedural tail and wings and also feet for shuffling as it moves around. I've got my aiming. I've got my shooting. The shooting is properly pooled with an object pool. I have a health bar. I didn't program death because I haven't built the whole game loop, but the health bar goes down. I've got enemies that attack with different rates of attack, multiple enemies. I've got the Twitch chat connection, so you can actually just type sentences, pretty loose sentences too. I've tried to make it easy for people to type whatever they want, to give it different hats or pick different creatures, and eventually there will be weapons and all kinds of other customizations. The players can name it. I've got them moving around on a nav mesh, being able to die, take health, damage, everything that I pretty much wanted to hit. We're about to eat breakfast now, so that's going to take an hour and a half. So by that time, there's only going to be maybe an hour left of development time. So I think now is as good of a time to stop. I'm not rushed to finish anything, and I'm quite happy with the results. So I'm just going to go through and show a few of the overview of this to close out this video. Here I've got my Twitch chat up. Well, first of all, let's show a little bit of the movement. We've got the shuffling of the feet that I'm quite happy with. This thing where he kind of backs up while looking at the reticle, it's really cute. That was a happy accident. Same thing as the rolling. The rolling was an accident in the first place, and I feel like I'm quite happy with the way he kind of rights himself and jumps and stuff. Open up Twitch chat and spawn some creatures. So you can see all the tests that I've done, but I can type something like a cactus named Perkins wearing a shark hat. And there it is. Perkins is on the screen, coming towards me with the nav mesh. I don't really have any graphics in for attacking, but you can see my health bar going down. I can destroy him. Do just a couple more fun things. A mole named Gandalf wearing a wizard hat. Perkins heard me saying his name because he's meowing outside the door right now. Amazing what I was able to get done with him sleeping the whole time. We can do a mole who really loves fire helmets. Then you can do other things that are as simple as just, let's say, pirate hat mole. Or cactus. Oops. cactus, hat, cactus. There's actually a cactus hat that I downloaded, and I thought that was very fitting for the fact that I have cactus monsters in the game. I'm quite happy with how I can move through the environment, and they chase me, and if I go somewhere that's hard for them to reach, they intelligently find their way around. Kind of add some good strategy. Maybe I can lure them into different places. Oh. Ah. So now they have to kind of walk down the other way because they won't go down steep slopes. And I'm quite happy with the progress. So if you watched this whole video, thank you for watching. I hope it was enjoyable. You had fun watching the kind of vertical slice of development of all these different stages. You're probably tired from watching that much footage, and I am tired from creating that much footage. I want to go have some breakfast, take a shower, and sleep. Goodbye.